We gather this afternoon We gather this afternoon to celebrate the life and mourn the passing of Duane Wikholm, a kind, gregarious man of integrity, energy, and curiosity. Though he could speak with a direct honesty, he was also a peacemaker among very opinionated military types and among passionate members of a church board somewhere. Duane never met a fellow human he couldn't have a lively conversation with in at least 3 languages. A truly kind, friendly man who is already deeply missed. I am the Reverend Dana Worsna, minister of this Unitarian Universalist Church of Ventura, where Duane and his wife of almost 73 years, Sylvia, have been members for nearly 3 decades. I welcome you all, Duane's family and friends who are packing this hall, especially Sylvia, sons Gary and his wife Nancy, Ron, Rick and his wife Liz, son-in-law Rick Peterson, and grandchildren Lauren, Eric, Catherine, Colin, Megan, and Jenna, and so much wider a family and so many friends from all walks of life and his dear church friends, co-workers, and colleagues. I extend the sympathy and condolences of this congregation to you all. Duane's granddaughters, Jenna and Kristen, will now come forward to light the chalice of this Unitarian Universalist faith. A human life is sacred. It is sacred in its being born. It is sacred in its living and loving. It is sacred in its dying. Let us honor together the sacred life and memory of Duane Wikholm. I invite you to join in singing "Let There Be Peace on Earth" in honor of Duane's gift of making peace among his fellow humans. If you'll rise in body or spirit and join in singing.
Peace that was meant
and Sylvia's 7 grandchildren will recite a poem by Roland Gittleson and then share their own memories of their grandfather.
In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember Papa.
In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember Papa.
In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember Papa.
In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of the summer, we remember Papa.
In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember Papa.
In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember Papa.
When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember Papa.
When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember Papa.
When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember Papa.
So long as we live, he too shall live, for he is now a part of us, and as we remember Papa.
I remember taking a trip with Papa to Sweden and him making conversation with everybody along the way in English and broken Swedish.
I remember Papa for making mashed potatoes with rutabagas every year.
I remember when I was young, he was teaching me how to do construction, showing me how to hammer nails, and using all of our tools.
I remember endless hours of help with homework on the phone, with physics, math, and Spanish, with tips on what to teach my teacher so she could teach us how to speak Spanish even better.
I thought this wouldn't be a crossover with my sister, but also I remember having my own private tutor available at all times for what I thought was an upgrade in calculus and physics. It was a huge downgrade in how advanced it was for him, but he was always excited to teach it. And while we were calculating trajectory of satellites around Earth, he had this background of actually working on those same satellites.
I remember our trip to France with Papa and learning so many things from him and him continually desiring to learn from others.
I remember when I asked him to cut my bangs for my 5th grade picture day, and they were not straight.
Thank you, Pat. Duane Wikholm was a force of nature, and such a good-natured one. He was resourceful, ever willing and eager to help. The more physically demanding the task, the better. And he was simply fascinated by his fellow humans. He was incredibly hardworking and vigorous, even as Parkinson's began to claim him in his last years. One thing in his life never wavered an iota: his devotion to his dear wife Sylvia and their entire family. For this service, I have a new resource for putting it together, which is a video interview with Duane from a church project called Voices of Our Elders. And it means that I will be able to share some of Duane's own words. And also, if anyone is interested, we will be playing a loop of the whole interview in the room we call the Green Room, which is directly in back of the sanctuary, because the walls are painted green. You'll recognize it. Duane Easer Wikholm was born on April 3rd, 1931 in Los Angeles, California, the youngest of the 4 children of Easer and Myrtle Marie Royce Wikholm. Duane's grandparents had immigrated to Minnesota when his father was 6, landing in a large Swedish community. They realized they'd never learn English if they stayed there, so the family packed up and headed out to California. Duane was always bright and hardworking, though not much of a scholar in his early years. And there were 3 events in his teen years that would have a lasting impact on his life. First, he met Sylvia White in 8th grade. Although Sylvia says 8th and Duane said 7th, so middle school. Though it was a few years before their romance blossomed. And then tragedy struck when his eldest brother Bradford died in a plane crash in France during World War II. And his second brother, Wilbur, was seriously injured in the South Pacific theater of the war. This devastated the whole family. And lastly, Duane was in a serious motorcycle accident in his high school days. As Duane himself recalled, "That kind of killed my athletic career." Indeed, the injury to one leg was so bad that amputation seemed the only option, until one doctor said, "No, wait, this penicillin stuff really works." And it did. 3 months later, Duane was discharged from the hospital, both legs intact, his athletic dreams in tatters, and somehow even less motivated in school. Luckily, romance did blossom in his senior year, and Sylvia recalls pulling an all-nighter with Duane to finish a paper that helped him squeak by and actually graduate. They both went on to LA City College. Then the Korean War broke out, and Duane knew his National Guard unit would be activated. Recalling what happened to his brothers in war, Duane's first thought was of Sylvia. He tracked her down on campus, determined that they should marry right away. And they did. However, in basic training, someone noticed that Duane kind of tilted as he walked. And in addition to the motorcycle accident, Duane had managed to fall down an elevator shaft while working in a furniture warehouse a couple of years earlier. That's another whole story. But when the Army determined to do some x-rays, they revealed damage to both the leg that he almost lost and cracked vertebrae from the elevator shaft fall. His military service was over before it began. Duane recalled, "They said, 'You're out.' And I thought, I'm not going to cry over that." And in the meantime, he had married his lady love. Something about not going to war and marriage flipped a switch in Duane. He returned to his studies with determination. He transferred to UCLA and finished a degree in engineering, going on for a master's and a PhD. Duane spoke of his marriage to Sylvia with a kind of awe that she would hitch herself to a guy with his act not yet very together. "When Sylvia married me," Duane said, "I was probably last of 1,000 graduates in high school. And after that, I had these jobs at a warehouse." After graduating from UCLA, Duane kept on working hard. He was very conscious that Sylvia had halted her own studies to work and support him and then care for their growing family. As Sylvia said, Duane got his PhD while she got her PhT, putting hubby through. There were a number of women in their cohort and generation who did just that. Duane's working life started at the Hughes Aircraft Company, and he went on to 5 years at Rand Corporation, back to his alma mater for teaching in, engineering, and then finally to the Aerospace Corporation, where much of the work he did was top secret. When those projects were finally declassified in 2011, it was such significant work that there was actually a party for 4,000 people at the Smithsonian to thank them and reveal the amazing work that they had been doing for many years. That job also took him away to as many as 60 business trips a year, though many of those were quick trips up to San Jose in one day. And so Duane would fly back every night in time to sit down to dinner with the family. Duane's devotion to family went beyond working hard to support them. Duane led Boy Scout troops and coached Little League. His sons recall fondly all the batting practice and the flies and grounders that Duane hit for them, as well as the scouting hikes. He always did so much more than many dads of his era. Duane recalled that his father used to say, "Be honest and keep your record straight." Other life lessons Duane got from his father to be helpful wherever you can and not to be prejudiced at all. He passed such lessons on to his children and grandchildren, great-grands. There's a couple great-grands going out here too. Hello, little one. Some of those lessons were things like, it's okay to work hard. Spend time with your family. Be generous with your time and your money. Duane was apparently always a very generous tipper. And be friendly and talk to almost everyone you meet. For Duane was a talker and curious about everyone. He said of himself, "I've always been friendly and outgoing. I'm happy all the time." Though he also owned that as a teenager, I think I was kind of a shy guy. I wasn't much of a ladies' man, and I met Sylvia in the 7th grade, and she had brothers, and I think that helped. I was always able to talk to her. I can recall many a conversation with Duane on all sorts of topics, though the last is now all the more poignant. We were at a reception after a performance we had both attended, and Duane just got into a couple of stories, reminiscing in his eager to share, delighted way. And when we parted, Duane said something like, next time I promise I won't talk your ear off. But I just smiled and said, oh yes you will. And I'm looking forward to it. Duane's curiosity also led into conversations with people of many faiths. He said something, he said, I'm spiritual in a sense. When you see the billions of universes and planets, I think there has to be something out there. I just don't know how to communicate with it. Oh, and by the way, as I quote from, that's a quote from the interview. And I just wanted to point out that this photograph here is from that interview, and Duane just holding forth as Duane. So, when Sylvia and Duane moved to Ventura 28 years ago, they landed in this church where they found kindred spirits, good friends, and travel companions. Duane served as the president of the board of trustees at apparently a rather contentious time, which, they come and go. I managed to be able to see Duane briefly in the hospital this summer. His body was fighting a systemic infection and he was sleeping. When I quietly said hello, Duane opened his eyes and immediately launched into his thoughts on mortality. No small talk for Duane. He dozed off mid-sentence, and so I got up to leave. But Duane's eyes popped open, and he completed the sentence right where he'd left off. After a couple of rounds of this, I realized that I was gonna, I realized he would keep going like this forever, and I should let him rest. Because his body needed that rest, but his lively mind was still at it. And so I end this portion of the service with two answers from the Voices of Our Elders interview. What advice do you have for people who are struggling today? Duane's response, if you can, be patient and just keep working. Yeah, don't give up. Don't give up. And what makes you happy now? I guess hearing that my grandkids and my kids are happy. I get joy from other people's joy. So very Duane. May we all go and do likewise. Amen. May it be so. I invite us all now to take some moments of silent tribute to Duane. As you sit quietly, let your mind picture him the way you'd most like to remember him. A simple image may flicker before you, or a whole conversation may run through your mind. Let this be the anchor for his memory as your life continues on without his physical presence. And know that as you think of the ways he touched your life, Duane will be present among us in spirit. For those who die most surely live on in our memories. And the moment someone dies, we must begin the tender work of memory. A silent tribute. family and friends will now offer some memories of Duane. Sylvia and sons, Gary, Ron, and Rick, will share some family members, and church members, Carolyn Briggs and Dale Condra, will also speak of his presence in this church community. And there will be an opportunity to share more memories at the reception afterward.
Hello, I'm Sylvia, Duane's Wikholm's wife of almost 73 years. We married February 9th, 1951, between semesters at Los Angeles City College. The Korean War had just begun, and Duane's unit of the National Guard had been activated. Thus, Duane wanted to get married to me before he was sent off to war. His brother Brad was killed during World War II when he crashed his P-38 fighter in France. His brother Wilbur came home on a hospital ship after his bomber crashed in the South Pacific. During the late 80s, when Duane was mid-80s, not in the 80s, when Duane was in his mid-80s, he developed some health problems. As he worked with doctors, Duane was always hopeful and eager to cooperate to improve his health situation. Duane was a peacemaker and a helpful member of groups, whether working in the United States space program for more than 25 years, or with the committee to build homes for Habitat for Humanity, or as board president of this UU church. Duane was very friendly. He loved people, and he always enjoyed a good joke. Duane even planned to go to the Olivas Adobe for at least one more time to dance under the stars. Duane came home after being treated in the hospital for over 5 weeks. Many members of our family, some friends and neighbors, surrounded him with love for the next 4 days. He died peacefully with family beside him on the 5th day. For this, we are eternally grateful.
Hello, I'm Rick Wikholm. I'm one of his sons. Some memories of my dad. I remember when I was very young, visiting him at UCLA in his office and then playing outside in the grass as he was working. I remember riding with him in his ruby red Volkswagen and going to Indian guide meetings and campouts, Pals Forever. Trolling for bonita in the back of his glass-drawn boat in Paradise Cove. Playing catch, fielding, batting practice. Lincoln Little League. The Toros, the Yankees. Camping along the Roaring River in Kings Canyon. Backpacking with the Boy Scouts in the Sierras. Packing with burros with our family and the dog. Family dinners together. He just loved to eat. I remember his old school discipline. I couldn't help smiling or laughing as he'd be disciplining me. Doing dishes together after the dinner, We all had a job, the washer, the dryer, and the putter-awayer, and roofing the house, their house in Westchester. His Swedish pride, and then he had a lot of UCLA pride. I remember watching his UCLA games with him, and his agony and his pain when they would lose to USC. YMCA exercising and playing handball, and some very painful experiences on the old exercise bike there. Dad taught me to drive, taught me a lot of physics and advanced math. The old Oceanside house with beach days and the pier, party boat fishing and getting seasick, dog training, dog shows, the family vacation, pulling a trailer across the United States and having gum games in the back seat, and his talking and having random conversations with people that he'd never met, and sort of embarrassing a lot of times. Driving a U-Haul, moving from Texas and breaking down in the middle of the desert in the middle of the night at 2 a.m, and then no cell phones, hitching a ride to the next town. Many, many memories. They're sort of all the same, just of a loving, devoted father.
I am Carolyn Briggs. As I remember it, I met Duane and Sylvia in 1995 when they were considering moving their membership to this church. I was impressed to observe the seemingly older, settled couple seeking a new church home, as were Dale and I at the time. I was struck by Duane's soft-spoken good nature and Sylvia's sparkling smile. At about that time, I had been on the Habitat for Humanity of Ventura County Board of Directors, and there was Duane, in the company of mostly older men, volunteering on home modification projects. Way back in the day, I served my first stint on our UU Board of Trustees. At that time, our minister and our congregation had yet to embrace the concept of shared ministry. Board presidents often brought an agenda to the position. Meetings were an arduous affair and often went long into the night. I particularly remember when Duane was our incoming president. I truly feared this gentle soul would be outflanked by a minister who was a strong administrative presence and a large board, with each member vying for attention of the area of interest that they represented, whether it was worship, children's religious education, finance, membership, or other area of church life. I really need not to have worried. Duane's warm and friendly countenance and his ability to work with all the personalities at the table enabled the work to proceed. I also remember being so touched by Duane's recounting of his brother's heroic acts in World War II and the gratitude of that French village. I shall always remember Duane as I've described, a smart and unassuming fellow who I was lucky enough to know just a bit.
Hello, I'm Dale Condra, and Duane and I joined the church, as Carolyn said, in 1995. That's 27 years ago. At that time, the congregation, the church, and the budget were a lot smaller. He and I shared the experiences of our community life. That means committee work. There were other shared experiences. Duane brought his curiosity to the humanist discussion group. He could give an opinion of the angry atheist like Sam Harris that we were discussing without getting all riled up, much better than some of the others. He understood that UUs are not just non-theistic and non-creedal, but susceptible to slipping into a little bit of holier-than-thou skepticism. Duane's attitude was always optimistic and very practical. Let's not get stuck on skepticism. We need to get things done to make a difference. The church community also helped Duane. He came to the UU Men's support group after Kim died. Rick also came with him. Duane brought the same quiet confidence to listening to the other men as he did in sharing his own feelings and telling his own difficult story of that moment. Duane's legacy is that he got things done and he made a difference. I am grateful for that.
Hi, I'm Ron. I'm the third of four children of Duane's. Oldest Gary, next Rick, next me. Kim is the youngest. Unfortunately, she's not with us. She passed on 6 years ago. Anyhow, Dad always said that he was a 10-pound baby born in their house in the Echo Park neighborhood of L.A. That is according to a nail scale in the lumber barn for his dad's business. They moved to another LA neighborhood when he was older, and then he went to Mount Vernon Junior High School, which is now Johnny Cochran Junior High, and then LA High School, which is where they filmed 222. Two defining events happened while in high school. One, the motorcycle accident where he broke his leg in 4 places, one of them a compound fracture, so he kind of had to give up running and the ball sports. A Major League Baseball career wasn't going to be. And then later on, he started dating Sylvia, my mom. And then a few years out of high school, he married. They had 4 children, which I'm one of, and 8 grandkids and 4 great-grandkids. And one of the great-grandkids is not with us, Paul. He passed on in 2006. Great guy. We miss him. But he wasn't a very good student in high school. And then when he went to LACC, he had a lot of catching up to do. He always gave his brother Wilbur, this is the one that lived through World War II and was a Caltech grad, a credit as being a really good tutor, helping him get up to speed in the hard science and math classes. And then he got straight A's all through UCLA, one of the hardest majors, BS, MS, and PhD in engineering. And he used to tell me that a little of his motivation was when he first went to UCLA, he got looked down on by, the ones that were like the valedictorian, like, oh, you went to junior college, and he's like, I'm going to work my butt off and I'm going to show them, and I'm going to be the one that gets all the A's, and he did. So he had a competitive side to him. Very helpful to youth in the community. He was very active in the Westchester YMCA fundraiser, which gave free memberships to, poor families. And he would go and speak in inner city schools in LA about what it takes to become an engineer, because it wasn't really as likely for some of them to consider that as a profession, what kind of coursework you have to do. All the camping and things like Rick just said, and also like we had one Boy Scout backpacking trip. It was the 50-miler, the Silver Bear Paw Trail. Very difficult even if you're an adult, but it would have never happened for like 7 or 8 kids, because you got to have an adult that'll do it. No other parent would do that. Same, and so not just for us, but then there was a few of them that could really drive you crazy. Some people know the dude, he was on it. My dad put up with him and all of us for a week, but you know, we would have just stayed home in LA and not had that backpacking trip if we didn't have that one parent that would, you know, give of himself. And the same thing with a lot of the leagues we played on, especially the baseball. A parent to go through a batting practice, give you the talk about the situations, hit flies and grounders. You can't just throw the kids out there with a bunch of bats and balls, you know, if they want to learn. So he really gave of himself to the kids in the community. And one of his greatest qualities was he never let religious differences or political opinion differences interfere with the friendship. Another thing about him is he liked flat beer. Like, yeah, that half can the next day, throw that. Oh no, that's the best. And I still have a weed abatement business. It's not doing much, but it was really hot, like from 99 to about 2016. A lot of big contracts, 40-acre ranches all over Agoura, and then one ranch that him and his sister and brother had inherited, 23-acre ranch. And, you know, I was young, able-bodied, and did a lot of it, and sometimes I hired some farm labor to help me. But he would be out there all the time. He was retired comfortably. He didn't need to be. And get all banged up. And sometimes he'd fall down a hillside, almost vertical, 150, 200 feet, boulders and stumps, all banged up. And we'd get home, you know, and we were kind of late for dinner, and Mom would say, do you really want to go out with him? He can handle it. And he goes, oh, no, it was great. I fell ass over tea kettle down that hillside, but give me something. I got the bad leg. We got to tape it up and all. No, I don't want to stay home. So he just liked getting dirty and working hard and helping people. Back when Kristen, his oldest grandchild, was born in San Antonio, I believe my brother Rick, her father, had quite a bad cold or flu and fever. And so I don't know if they were allowing him into the room where she was born in, but he made it out of his way on a business trip there just to be able to hold the new baby. And he went out of his way for a lot. He was very accessible and available, no matter how young or old you are or how old he was. If you had a problem or an issue in your life, and he was always concerned, always in your corner. And, you know, he was like, call anytime, and if I can do anything, never felt like you're bothering him on that. And anyhow, I'm going to cut myself off, except one thing at my Uncle Wally's, that's his sister Pat's husband, memorial. I think it's been like, 30 years or so now. He said, we're only passing through. And it's true. And he loved 3x5 cards. So.
Hi, I'm Gary, Gary Wikholm, Duane's oldest son. And we're trying to talk about things I guess we remember about my dad. One of these I don't remember, but as I've been told, that my first words were in English and Russian as I would sit listening to my dad listen to his homemade Russian tapes. while studying for his equivalency exams in college and shaving. I loved my dad and admired everything about him, and I wanted to do everything my father did. I wanted to be a cowboy, a baseball coach, a fisherman and a hunter, and a Sunday school teacher. And someday I wanted to get a doctorate in something. And also wanted to be married to a woman like my mother and have a family, which I did. Thank you, Nancy. He was loads of fun for young boys. 4th of July's with firecrackers at Pat and Wally's, swimming, skin diving by age 6, and scuba diving by age 14. He could tutor you in anything, whether it was physics, math, or languages, not organic chemistry, reflecting my best and worst grades in college. He guided us, but was not embarrassing, which was really nice. I remember one time he pulled us over as we were going with a bunch of guys in college down to Disneyland and riding in the open back of Bob Yeagley's pickup truck. And him saying to everybody, hey, why don't you guys sit down and keep the beer below the bed of the truck? And who here hasn't been drinking? Why don't we have you drive? And then coming home in college after a water polo game and having dinner and him saying, hey, you know, you had a really good play in that third quarter when you did this, and I never knew he was there because he wouldn't embarrass us, but he was watching through the fence. He didn't want to miss out on anything we were doing. He treated myself and our friends all the same and had the same interest in all my friends and their families. He cared about their sports. He wanted to know about their military career aspirations, whether it was and flying, the ones that became pilots, and also firefighting. And of course, anybody that was interested in engineering. What impressed me the most was his ability to forgive anyone. He never and the other thing that was amazing is Duane had a temper sometimes, but he was never mean to anyone, ever. I was fortunate to be his physician. He was an excellent patient, keeping much better records of his blood pressure readings, his meds, and symptoms than I could ever. I was honored to be with him as he took his last peaceful breath, and we spoke almost daily since my sister Kim died. I really miss our conversations. Growing up, our dinner table was like one of Megan's seminar classes at St. Mary's College, full of opinions and debate over politics, religion, literature, and of course, baseball and UCLA football. Duane took time to enjoy everyone. He's often said, everybody has 24 hours in their day and everybody fills it up the way they want, or however we please. So I guess the lesson to take away would be from 1 John 4, 7, and 8. So take time to enjoy and love one another. It's a nice way to live.
Thank you all so much for your words. And there will be time in the reception to share more memories because this room is full of them. It's full of them. The final dance under the stars at the Olivas Adobe was not to be. And yet, let us dance on with Duane as we join in singing a beloved hymn in this congregation, Let It Be a Dance. The lyrics will be on the screens. If you'll rise in body or spirit and join in singing.
Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the word, and fill the sky with saintly
So I almost always choke up at some point in a memorial service, and it hadn't happened until I heard us all singing that song together. Missed a couple of verses in there, and then it came back. Such a good man who you all have honored so fully this day. A rich and full life that we are so sorry to lose, and yet so grateful to have been part of. There will be a reception, and Sylvia and the whole family wanted to make certain that y'all were really well fed. And so there will be a reception and food and music and a chance to share memories and dance and eat and watch Duane speaking not that long ago, still with us. As you leave this afternoon, even as we all say goodbye, take the memory of Duane Wikholm with you, knowing that in gathering here, in celebration of Duane and in sorrow at his loss, we honor his life and his precious memory. I leave you with the words of an anonymous author. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glint on snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you wake in the morning hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of quiet birds in circling flight. I am the soft starlight at night. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. Dance on, Duane. You dear, dear, kind man. And rest peacefully. You have done so well. Amen.
right across from the pier, it's